the Dauntless. I still find it rather far-fetched that your prediction time to terraform an entire planet is 15 years. I would expect it to take at least 100. Admiral Cistern remarks as he reads through the report in front of him. If we needed to supply an atmosphere and magnetic field and rotational axis, maybe, sir. However, the planet is already in the green zone, has an atmosphere. The scientist explains a toxic atmosphere, Admiral Cistern says as he turns a few pages and looks at the logistical number for growing new forests based off the statistical data of the lumber industry and its reforestation efforts. It's easier to cleanse an atmosphere than import one, so it's an upgrade. An algae will be sufficient? Admiral Cistern's voice is doubtful. Oh yes. Couple that with some imported coral samples and the dotting system, we should be able to cleanse the atmosphere and get a head start on bringing some green to the world. The scientist continues, and Admiral Cistern frowns as he turns to the atmospheric portions and begins reading more on the algae and coral. Dotting, explain that to me. In summary, dotting is a style of terraforming where, instead of trying to make a whole forest or a grassland or whatever form of environment you're trying to produce, you create on the small scale to allow yourself to experiment and not only find a proper method and fail faster in the experimentation process, but you quickly reach a point of saturation where nature itself takes over and spreads as nature is prone to. I think I'm beginning to understand. Without competition, the algae will spread over the oceans formed by the cometary impacts, and we can later import fish and detritus eaters to add biodiversity. I'm not sure what importing lawyers to a partially terraformed world will do, sir. I was thinking more crayfish and other such creatures, the scientist says, and there's a snort from Admiral Cistern. I'll be sure to pass the legal division your compliments, he says, and the scientist snickers. Now, from my own reading of this document and the understanding I have obtained so far, the plan is to alter the flight patterns of numerous comets to strike the world of Anriac 4 at an angle designed to cause its toxic atmosphere to cause sufficient heat friction to melt these enormous balls of ice. This is to be done repeatedly until there is a recognizable water cycle and at least a quarter of the planet is covered in water. Yes, sir. At that point, you will introduce rapidly spreading plant life into the water and utilize it to purify the air, possibly adding in more water as the situation demands. Yes, sir. So once you have basic vegetation down, followed by the first few animals to feed from it, how far do you intend to go with the biodiversity? Are we going all the way up to apex predators? Will there be parasites and insects? What about microbial life? The smaller and more wriggling parts of nature may be unpleasant, but all are part of a larger whole. We're going to be careful about it. An experiment that we're going to attempt is that we're not going to introduce the microbiology that causes wood and bark to decay as we know it. Will that not throw things off balance? Only on a surface level. We actually have a snapshot of such things happening before, long ago in Earth's past. We're going to try to replicate it. Some clarification would be appreciated. Simply put, sir, all sources of coal around Earth are from such a time. The microbiology needed to rot wood as we know it is in celestial terms, fairly young. Some races like the Tret actually trace back their species history for longer periods of time. The scientist notes and Admiral Cistern pauses, considers, and then rubs the side of his head at the concept of having a stable history for several million years at minimum. Remarkable, is all he says as he goes over the plan. I'm not seeing plans of proper observational infrastructure in here. Those have yet to be drawn up, sir. The local terrain must be accounted for. I see. And what kind of expenses are we looking at to accomplish all this? Our budget is impressive with all the trade we've been capable of and the stocks we've wrested control over, but there is an upper limit. Each part of the plan has its own difficulties. Most of the samples will be imported from Earth, and the largest portion of the expense will be if anyone challenges our claim to the comets we're redirecting. If they do, then the legal battle will be long, drawn out and hefty on the budget. If not, however, then they will be fairly cheap, as several of our experimental ship designs could easily perform the redirection procedure, which would serve as an exceptional test for their capabilities as tugs. Yes, the scientist says, and Admiral Cistern pages through the report again. I see. Come back to me with some numbers beyond a basic time frame and I'll give you an answer on whether to go ahead or not. I like what I'm seeing so far, Admiral Cistern says, shutting the folder and handing it back. Yes, sir, the scientist says and salutes before walking out. A spot of coffee, sir, Sir Philip says, arriving with a small trolley. Please, I clearly do not have a head for terraforming, Admiral Cistern says, and quickly has a large mug of dark caffeinated goodness in front of him with a brownie to the side. Thank you. May I offer some insights of my own, sir? Sir Philip asks, and Admiral Cistern nods before taking a sip of the coffee. An entire world is of immense value. Couple it with the closeness of a weapon manufacturing company's testing area, and it will bring their scientists and researchers to the world in as either tourists or prospective residents, which, if we offer a discount, could be used to gain an enormous amount of both influence and goodwill. Canid Solutions is a very well-regarded and wealthy company. Having them as allies would serve very well. I agree. And I must confess the political landscape makes more sense than all the unending finicky bits of environmental building and maintenance, Admiral Cistern says. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, sir. Not one person can do everything, Sir Philip remarks. Oh, I don't know. You've convinced most of the crew that you can, Admiral Cistern says with a sniff as he takes another drink. He really needs the caffeine. The morning had started early and had not let up until this moment. Technically, the brownie would be his breakfast, and at a glance there are nuts baked into it. Good. He needs everything he can get. One does one's best, sir, Sir Philip remarks, and Admiral Cistern chuckles. Tell me, how much setup is involved in your tricks? I know you're getting help to get things done, but how many more men are in this room? 6, sir, Sir Philip remarks, and Admiral Cistern's eyebrows rise up. I see. Are they all armed? Minimally, sir. Stealth is prioritized, so they have knives and holdout pistols, Sir Philip answers. Excellent. Just because things have been friendly doesn't mean they can't go wrong. I had a very interesting report earlier. I am aware, sir, Sir Philip says, not clarifying what he's aware of. The soldiers I've dispatched to Octaron Spin are being groomed to serve as its command crew when its current master retires. This came as a confession from Captain Minasai, who has further elaborated that every interaction with humanity she has had thus far has been nothing but a test to better understand us. I see, sir. Do you? We're being watched, Philip. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if all of our operational security has been nothing but a polite fiction from them to us. These aliens are effectively ageless, and even what appear to be their children could be thousands of years old. Perhaps, sir. In truth, most lose their lives before finding a 4th digit on the age registry. Accident, violence, spontaneous sickness, or even depression and suicide pare down the number substantially, Sir Philip says, and Admiral Cistern nods. Perhaps it is not a worst-case scenario, but we are still competing with and trying to understand the motives of beings many hundreds of years of age. Must they be so complicated? If one were to stretch out their lifespan, you could almost consider the first century of someone's life a childhood of a sort. I've done a great deal of poking about. Many peoples of many races rarely move beyond the stereotypical depictions before tragedy or accident take them, Sir Philip says. More the pity, Admiral Cistern remarks as he thinks. So is there something you would like to inform me of as I regain my energy, or are the impeccable manners veiling an actual appreciation for my company? You're not so unpleasant to be around as you may think, sir. Sir Philip assures him with a smile. You would have scarcely attracted two very high-ranked women into officially wedding you and throwing their not inconsiderable political weight into your corner without some redeeming qualities. Have I? I assumed it was more along the lines of there being an enormous demand for men, and therefore the highest-ranking women around would naturally be attracted to the highest-ranking men around. Admiral Cistern notes. Sir, what is bothering you? Sir Philip asks, and Admiral Cistern grows quiet. Sir, you have a duty to perform. If you allow your own issues to pile up, then it will affect your ability to lead. All men have burdens, and the command class more than any other must remain mentally and emotionally unburdened to best serve their people. It weighs on me sometimes, Admiral Cistern says, putting down his mug and slumping into himself. My sons. Ah, it's that mess. I will likely never, ever see them again if they hear about me. It will likely be a massive case of slander portraying me as some madman who ran off with the Dauntless. Even if that isn't the case, then what on or off Earth will they think of my remarrying with aliens, or of the children that are undoubtedly approaching? My wife may have turned against me, but I suppose some small part of me hoped to reconcile with them. Will that ever be possible? Will they die hating me? Ah, Sir Philip says before removing his monocle and tucking it away. He moves out of his stiff, formal posture and pats the Admiral on the shoulder. Chin up, old bean. We're in new waters. Right now it's months between contact, but a bit of advancement, and we may shorten it to days or even hours in no time. Not to mention I'm certain that you'll be able to find a way to lure both of them off of Earth and have at least a chance to present your case to them. Not to mention I'm positive Nick T and Jacqueline would love to meet them both. Yes, however. No ifs, ands, buts, or however, sir. This is the first time this kind of thing has happened. Not to mention you're a resourceful type. If you want your sons here on Centris beside you, then there are few forces that can stop it, Sir Philip says before letting out a rueful chuckle. And as blasphemous as it may be, I doubt Queen or country are either willing or, God save me, capable of stopping such a thing. You want your sons? Give the order and they will be standing beside you within the year. Admiral Cistern chuckles to himself somewhat, and he sits up properly once more. Perhaps we should explore the more legal avenues before we burn bridges with a double kidnapping. If you insist, sir, if you insist, Sir Philip says as he once more affixes his monocle in place. Now then, perhaps if you were to eat, sir. The brownie is quite calorie-dense and also possesses artificial nutrients to make it the equivalent of an energy bar, yet easier to chew and more desirous to be devoured. An interesting way to say that the brownie is better tasting than a protein bar. It can be entertaining to enunciate in exotic ways to express oneself, Sir Philip says, and gets a slow look from Admiral Cistern. The older man makes no reaction.